Welcome to How Leaders Lead. I'm Koula Callahan here with David Novak to bring you another edition of Three More Questions. David, how you doing today?
I'm doing fantastic. And Koula, I want to thank you on behalf of the David Novak leadership team last night for taking us to your club and treating us to such a nice dinner. I mean, everybody loved it. The food was very different and delicious, and everybody had a great time. So thank you very much.
The food was very different. You ordered a sausage and pepperoni pizza.
No, it was a spicy pepperoni pizza, and it was very different. And the crust was outstanding. And believe me, I know my pizza. It was very good.
I love your pizza.
And by the way, the chicken tenders were incredible too. I really like the place. I'm not making fun, but thank you for having us at your club. Now let's get going.
All right, well, shout out to Soho House for those crispy chicken tenders. Hey, speaking of pizza, did you ever watch Dave Portnoy's pizza reviews?
Absolutely. I did it when I was doing my research on Erica Ayers-Badon, to really, try to understand Barstool. And that guy is friggin' crazy. I mean, seriously, he's on another planet in terms of being outspoken. But somehow she made it work with him and really helped that company be successful.
She absolutely did. She really legitimized Barstool as one of the leading sports brands, really, that's talked about today. And I'm excited to dive into our questions for today. Like you said, David, we're debriefing your conversation with Erica Ayers-Badon. She was the CEO of Barstool. She's now the CEO of Food 52. And she's really a trailblazer type of leader, and did really amazing stuff for Barstool as a female in a really male-dominated business. She's just amazing, I think, and I'm a huge fan, and excited to get some of your comments on the topics that you talked about with Erica on the show. Let's get going. Question number 1. Erica, like I said, is a strong female leader. And when she took over as CEO of Barstool, she really took it upon herself to prove the naysayers wrong and show that a female CEO could legitimize this very male-dominated business. Now, I know you learned a lot from Erica in your interview. I did too. But I want to know, David, what is the most powerful leadership lesson that you've learned from female leaders that you've either worked with or interviewed for the podcast?
I think number one, female leaders really have a great appreciation for the fact that they are female. They understand that, they're different many times in male-dominated worlds, but they look at leadership just like anybody would look at leadership. They want to be acknowledged for who they are. They want to be seen as people who can have vision, the people who can execute, people who can motivate, people who can inspire, and they want to be seen as doing that as a leader, not necessarily as a female. And the most successful women I've seen is they stay true to who they are, but they make men feel comfortable with them. They don't walk into a room and say, hey, I'm female, you need to treat me differently. No, they walk in as a leader and say, hey, I'm going to help us grow this business. And they make men feel very comfortable around them. Now, maybe you shouldn't have to do that. My daughter is an outstanding leader, and, I want her to have a level playing field, and I want her just to be herself. But I know that one of Ashley's great characteristics is no matter who she's with, they are comfortable around her. And, she doesn't wear her femininity on her sleeve, yet she's as feminine as anyone could be. And, I think that's a great trait to have. But the bottom line is, the great female leaders are leaders in every respect, and it has nothing to do with their sex.
I think about Caitlin Clark and the just kind of like fandom around Caitlin Clark right now. I was looking through Instagram earlier, and she's playing in a pro-am on the LPGA Tour, and the crowds that are following her are just massive. I mean, you would think it's, Rory McIlroy at Augusta National, the way these people are following Caitlin Clark. And so, while everything you said is totally true, I also think that as a woman, at least I remind myself, like, game recognizes game. And if you come in there and you know your stuff and you perform and you deliver results and you make people around you feel comfortable, like, that speaks for itself, regardless of gender or where you come from or kind of your experience. So I think, in any position, no matter what your gender is, like always proving yourself and delivering results is stuff that you just can't replicate.
Koula, you have said a lot of really great things on this podcast, but I love game recognizes game. I absolutely love that, and I think everybody needs to remember that, and I think that's a very, very insightful comment. And by the way, I'm going to use that, and I won't give you no attribution.
Hey, that's free for you to use, David.
All right.
Question number 2. In the interview, Erica talks about how mid-level managers often want to shield their teams from exposure and mistakes, when really they should allow their people to run, make mistakes, then learn from them, as that's what's really crucial for their development. How can managers strike the balance of letting their people make mistakes and learn for themselves while at the same time not jeopardizing business performance?
Well, I think that's the art of leadership. That's the art of management, is knowing when to truly let go. I basically think the idea of let people make mistakes, that's the only way they can learn, I think that's BS. I don't want mistakes happening in my company. I want people winning in my company. I want people being successful, and I want to help people get successful and do everything that they can. And the best analogy I can give you on this that I picked up from someone years ago is that if you've got your child and you're teaching them how to ride a bicycle, okay, before you don't just let them get on that bike and take off and fall and skin their knees and, elbow and break their shoulder or whatever. No, they start out with training wheels. And then you take those training wheels off after the kid can basically ride a bike with the training wheels. Once you take off the training wheels, then what do? You run along with your child, okay? And you're right there with them side by side before you let them go. Because they have the skills at that point in time to be successful. And then you let them go and they fly. And I think that's what leadership is all about when it's about managing people. So to let people just come in and go find their way and make all the mistakes and learn from it, I don't buy that. Okay? Yeah, I think you learn from your mistakes, but your job as a leader is to help people win. And when you make a mistake, it can hurt your business. And I don't want my business to be hurt. I want my business to grow.
And I think really what Erica was getting at is, don't baby your people, because if you start out by babying your people, holding their hand through everything and kind of being prescriptive about the stuff that they do, then that turns into micromanagement. They don't learn for themselves.
I totally agree with that. You don't want to baby people. You don't want to coddle them. Okay. But you want to tell them, look, I want you riding this bike as fast as you can. So get the skills so that I can let you go and ride that bike. Once you demonstrate that to me, I'm going to let you go. I've always felt, autonomy is an earned right. And that's the important thing. I'll let you go when you demonstrate that you know what you're doing.
That's one of the Davidisms that I always come back to. Autonomy is an earned right. I love that.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. I like game follows game or whatever it was.
Game recognizes game.
Game recognizes game. See, I already forgot. It must not have been that powerful. Or I'm losing my mind. That could be true.
You're not losing. Not true. All right. Final question for today. Question number 3. Erica really changed the trajectory of Barstool. She refers to her time there as breathlessly extraordinary. And yet, when she decided to leave, she was resolute about her time there being done. And in the last part of her book called Nobody Cares About Your Career, she talks about this very idea of, do you stay or do you go? As a leader, David, how do you really know when it's time to walk away?
Well, I always boil this down to a really simple premise. The minute you stop growing, the minute you stop learning, the minute you don't feel like you're pushing yourself, that's when I think you got to go to a new environment where you can stimulate your growth, and that's the key thing. And then I think sometimes, like when you decide to basically stop working, I think the people that I know that have stopped working, they stop working because they don't have the same kind of enthusiasm, they don't have the same kind of passion that they had when they were growing the business. And another reason why they stop is they realize they can't put the uniform on the way how they used to because they're not as excited. They may have some personal issues that keep them from doing the job the way how it needs to be done. Those are other reasons why you might stop doing something and move on. In her case, Erica's case, she seemed to feel like she had really done a great job building that business. She felt like the business could go on without her. But I think she was also running to a different environment. She's now at Food 52, which basically is almost an all-female environment. And when you listen to the podcast, she talks about the difference between the two environments. And I think that's great, but that's challenging her in its own right. And so, but in the end, I think she wanted to do something different. She wanted to stimulate herself and she wanted to grow. And that's a lot of times that new environment really, really takes you there.
I love how simple you make that decision, David. It's, are you still growing or are you not? And if you're not still growing, it's probably a good sign that it's time to leave and find your next experience.
I think I had 6 moves in my career. I might be missing one, but every one of those moves came from the fact that I knew I could grow if I went to a new place. And it worked out pretty well for me. And, I really have to give my, wife, Wendy, a lot of credit for that. She pushed me. She gave that push beyond my reach. When she would see me getting a little stale, she said, David, we don't have to stay here. And I said, you're right. And next thing I know, I was working somewhere else and she was right there with me. But, I think you do need to have those truth tellers in your life that kind of tell you, you can do better. You have the capability to move on. And one of the things that I'm most proud of when I look back on my career, I think I have well over 20 CEOs that left Yum Brands. Okay. And I guarantee if I went and talked to every one of them, they felt that they could do more and they felt that they could grow more. They loved being at Yum, but they had an opportunity that was going to take them to a whole different level. And when you can have that opportunity to get you in a new environment where you're going to do something that you've never done before, it's kind of hard to say no.
I love it, David. So great. Well, if you haven't listened to the full interview with David and Erica Ayers-Badon, definitely carve out some time in your week to do that. You'll be inspired and quite frankly entertained because she's just a great communicator and keeps it really real. So definitely go back, give episode 213 with Erica Ayers-Badon a listen. Well, that does it, David, for our episode of 3 More Questions for today. Thank you so much for tuning in to How Leaders Lead. We're on a mission to make the world a better place by developing better leaders. And if you carve out a little time with us each and every week, we'll help you build the confidence you need to lead well.
And coming up next on How Leaders Lead is Scott Harrison, founder and CEO of Charity Water. And this guy is a definite out-of-the-box thinker and has redefined the way how nonprofits ought to really be looking at their business.